urgent, Vikings fan? Look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Vikings linked to potential trade for ex-Commanders. QB amid new rumor. The Minnesota Vikings are J.J. McCarthy's team for all intents and purposes. However, the Vikings are still exploring veteran options and former Washington. Commanders starter and Seattle Seahawks QB Sam Howell could be a fit. With former Vikings QB Sam Darnold's arrival in free agency with a 3-year, $105 million contract, among other moves at the position, Howell is on the trade block. ESPN's Kevin Seifert posted on X on April 19th that the situation is worth keeping an eye on. The Seahawks are open to trading Sam Howell and have received inquiries from teams interested in acquiring their backup quarterback, sources have told ESPN. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and Brady Henderson wrote on April 18th that interest comes on the heels of the Seahawks adding Drew Lock last week, resigning Geno Smith's former backup to potentially fill the same role behind new starter Sam Darnold. Jaron. Hall is their fourth quarterback, giving Seattle a potential surplus at the position. Seattle acquired Howell in a trade last March with the Washington Commanders, giving up 3rd and 5th round selections in exchange for Howell and picks in the 4th and 6th rounds. The Seahawks beat out 3 other teams who were also negotiating. With Washington, a source told ESPN at the time, Vikings trade pitch targets ex-Commanders Seahawks QB Howell, 24, was the number 144 overall pick of the 2022 draft. He has completed 62, 6 of his passes for 4,139 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 23 interceptions in his career. He posted a 24.01 line on 35, 7 completion and 14 attempts across 2 games off the bench in 2024. This Vikings trade proposal could be enough to pry Howell loose from the Seahawks. Vikings get Sam Howell. Seahawks get conditional 2026 7th-round pick. The Vikings own a league-low 4 selections in the 2025 draft as of April 19th, so this deal dips into their 2026 pool, which is also light and subject to prior trade conditions. With protection, Vikings QB roomlight on Experience Fowler and Henderson described Howell's showing as unremarkable, noting he struggled. Still, he would offer the Vikings more experience than they currently have in McCarthy or current QB2 Brett Rypien, who is 22 as a starter in 6 seasons. McCarthy missed his entire rookie season with a torn meniscus, and head coach Kevin O'Connell admitted the team is taking a risk by entrusting him as QB1. However, he also touted McCarthy's work during his otherwise lost rookie season. He was in meetings, he was taking great notes. I was meeting with him personally once a week, and he had great questions. O'Connell told Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer in comments published on April 14th, "We were trying to steal whatever time we could, not only myself and him, but our other coaches as well. But the best part about it, he was in the building, he was around his teammates, he had a front row seat to see the journey Sam went on. There was some value in that." O'Connell acknowledged there was frustration from McCarthy over not being on the field. The youngster has said all he wants is an opportunity to start. The Vikings, meanwhile, continue to be linked to veterans, including Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Pausing this news, just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Vikes news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks, now let's get back to the news. Vikings trade proposal flips 3rd round. Pick for 3,900-yard QB, the Minnesota Vikings have not been in a rush to add a quarterback to compete with Andor, backup 2nd-year signal caller J.J. McCarthy, but that could change quickly following the conclusion of the NFL draft a little more than 1 week from now. Minnesota only has 4 picks in the draft, so the team is highly unlikely to look for a quarterback there. The more sensible option, for several reasons, is to scour the trade and free agent markets for a veteran who can either provide McCarthy with some guidance and/or fill in successfully for him if he struggles early on or suffers an injury. Will Satsat. Levis of the Tennessee Titans doesn't fit the former part of that bill, though he does potentially make sense in the latter. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report authored a trade proposal on Friday, April 18th, in which Minnesota sends Tennessee a 3rd-round pick in 2026 in exchange for Levi's and a 4th-rounder this year, number 120 overall, which would boost the Vikings' otherwise anemic store of draft picks. Minnesota, however, does need a quality backup and currently has only Brett Rypien behind McCarthy on the depth chart, Knox wrote. Trading for Levis would land Minnesota a somewhat experienced quarterback without potentially costing the Vikings a compensatory pick in 2026. While Levis wouldn't really be much of a mentor to McCarthy, he has 21 starts on his resume and could be a viable placeholder if McCarthy isn't ready to start by week 1. Will Levis has had moderate success at NFL level. The Titans selected Levis with the number 33 pick in the 2023 draft. Since then, he has started 21 games in Tennessee. Levis has completed 61 of his passes for 3,900 yards, 21 TDs, and 16 INTs over his 2-year tenure with the franchise, amassing a record of 516. Part of that lack of team success is Levis' fault, though the Titans have struggled to put winning teams on the field since a run of 3 consecutive playoff trips between 2019-21. Tennessee is 16-35 since the start of the 2022 campaign and owns the number 1 overall pick in next week's draft. Most analysts expect the team to select quarterback Cam Ward in that spot, which could put Levis on the trade block. He still has 2 years remaining on his rookie deal, which is valued at a total of $5 million. Vikings lost 2 possible backup QBs in free agency, passed on Aaron Rodgers, while Levis has had moderate success in the NFL. At best, he is a more known and proven entity than McCarthy. Minnesota drafted McCarthy with the number 10 pick in last year's draft, but he suffered a knee injury in August 2024 that has required 2 surgeries to repair and kept him sidelined for his entire rookie campaign. Both Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, veteran quarterbacks who were on the Vikings roster last season, left in free agency for better opportunities to start elsewhere. Minnesota will eventually sign a QB, likely with the intention of making him McCarthy's backup, though the veteran options available in free agency and/or via trade are shrinking. The Vikings already considered and ultimately passed on the notion of signing Aaron Rodgers to a short-term contract. Vikings projected to trade with AFC power in first round of draft. The Minnesota Vikings have less than a week before going on the clock at the NFL draft on April 24th, and the Vikings could make the wait a bit longer. That's because the Vikings only have 4 picks to start with, and NFL.com draft expert Chad Reuter has Minnesota trading down in the first round to acquire more draft capital. In Reuter's latest mock draft on April 18th, he has the Vikings trading down with the Buffalo Bills. With that trade, Vikings would give up the number 24 spot to the Bills and drop down to number 30 in the first round, but also acquire 2 fourth-round selections. Reuter projects the Vikings to take South Carolina junior safety Nick Emenwari with that number 30 pick. It fills a need that the Vikings have at secondary after fielding a 28th-ranked passing defense in 2024. Emenwari and Harrison Smith would form a nice safety duo for the Vikings, Reuter wrote. The rookie could play in the box, over slot receivers, and cover the back end when called upon. In the 4th round, Reuter has the Vikings picking up Georgia junior offensive guard Dylan Fairchild and BYU senior edge Tyler Batty. Reuter also has the Vikings selecting USC senior cornerback Jalen Smith in the 3rd round, SMU senior running back Brashard Smith in the 5th round, and Clemson senior tight end Jake Brenningstool in the 6th round. Minnesota would improve its roster with 6 picks overall instead of 4 in the draft. Nick Emenwari disrupts passing attacks with rare athleticism. A first-team All-American in 2024, Emenwari had a big junior season for the Gamecocks with 4 interceptions, 57 tackles, and 2 pass deflections. He also scored 2 defensive touchdowns during the year. Overall, Emenwari has 6 interceptions, 166 tackles, and 11 pass deflections in 37 career games for the Gamecocks between 2022 and 2024. The 6'3", 220-pound South Carolina native has a prospect grade of 6.41 per NFL.com and an 85 combine score from Next Gen Stats. We knew Nick Emenwari was going to be a great athlete, but in Indianapolis, he showed he's a rare athlete, Pro Football Focus Trevor Sycamore wrote. At the Combine, he clocked 38 seconds for the 40-year dash plus a 49-second 10-yard split. Emenwari hit a 43-inch vertical jump and an 11-foot 6-inch broad jump. Vikings find good fits in proposed picks. The Vikings address a bunch of key needs. In Reuter's mock draft, Jalen Smith adds to the secondary depth. The former Trojan star tallied 2 interceptions, 59 tackles, and 2 pass deflections last season. Pro Football Focus gives Fairchild a 74.6 overall grade, which would bode well for the Vikings in the trenches. That would help with the Vikings. Offensive line depth, though it was a position group that the Vikings escaped injury on in 2024, Batty gives the Vikings another force in the defensive trenches for depth. He had 16, 5 sacks and 122 tackles over 53 games in 5 seasons at BYU. Brashard Smith adds to the Vikings' backfield and takes some of the load off of Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Smith rushed for 1,332 yards and 14 touchdowns with the Mustangs last season. Briningstool gives the Vikings needed depth at tight end. Behind T.J. Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, the 6'6" former Clemson star had 127 catches for 1,380 yards and 17 touchdowns in 48 career games over 4 seasons. And now, Vikings fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Vikes. I'll be back any moment with more Vikings news. Skol, Vikings!